Good evening, everyone. We are back, as always, Thursday evenings, 8 o'clock sharp. Welcome to another episode of the Têkkel Talk Show live. And as always, looking smart all the way from Kuilsrivier. Alberic, how are you?
Very good, Annie. Good to see you, dude. I hope the weather's treating you as well there in the Swartland. Bietjie koud vandag in die Kaap geweest, maar yeah, we're not complaining about the rain. So yeah. How's things your side?
Yeah, no, not a problem. We still, we're still surviving. We had a few good showers in the Swartland, and to all of the listeners out there or the viewers, we try to really sort out our connection. There might be some glitches. It is a live stream show. The weather is not very good, but we are guys that keep to our promises. And Thursday sharp, we will always be on duty. Action-packed show tonight, Alberic. Action-packed show tonight again.
Of course, and we got a very special guest. It's our first Protea on the show, so we're very excited about that. And yeah, Annie, we have to talk about the past weekend's results on the rugby field. So jammer, Annie, man, that's my een van hy goedjies. So guys, let's cover the results. I'm not too sure if Annie knows about it, but this past weekend's results are on the screen right now. Lions lost against the Stormers at home, 37-39. Yeah. The Bulls taking it 43-9 against the beloved Sharks of Durban. Yeah. So yeah, Heini, what a game at the end there.
What a pity that you had to show this on the show tonight. The Sharks absolutely annihilated, thumped by the Bulls. My beloved Sharks, ek weet maybe they must change their name to the Sardines or something, but they were absolutely atrocious. They get hammered by the Bulls. I don't believe that the Bulls are 35 points better than the Sharks, but the Sharks need to go back to the drawing board. This week, obviously, another opportunity. They're playing one of the weaker teams in the competition in the Stormers, so I'm backing the Sharks to take it against the Stormers. And then, I don't know, Alberic, but the Lions might be in trouble against the Bulls. The Bulls under Jake White looking furiously good.
Yeah, they're looking phenomenal at the moment, and they just look like a team that's on the upward curve. I saw, and let's take it back to the Sharks Stormers game, because I see you briefly went past that. The Stormers obviously loading a solid team going to Durban this weekend, so it's going to be fantastic to see like a better strength team. With all respect to the players that played last week. There's the bigger names coming back to the fore, Schikkeling, Ori coming back as well. So yeah, bolstering a fantastic pack. So yeah, let's check. Let's see what it looks like this weekend. Good luck to you, Annie.
Yeah, no, on paper I will mention, like I've mentioned it each and every weekend, on paper the Stormers should thump the Sharks, but they had to wait until the dying moments against the Lions to get a penalty to slot it over. A weakened Lions team. I'm backing the Sharks to take it at Kings Park.
Ik wil zeggen the winners are win. So yeah.
So yeah, guys, I see the social media feed already moving. I see there's a lot of people in wet weather. Obviously, it's a custom. Avery Boer obviously sitting there. He just joined us. A lot of people sitting with your soup, and it's a custom that on a rainy weekday in Cape Town, there will be soup on the table. So thanks for joining us, guys. And keep that social media feeds coming. Let's get straight into it, Alberic. We've got a special guest.
Yeah, I mean, his record speaks a lot. And I think this week when we did announce it on our pages, we got a lot of messages of people that are going to be tuning in tonight and to get to know Ashwell a bit better. So yeah, without further ado, guys, we waited a long time. It's like I said earlier, it's our first Protea. And the current Cape Cobras coach, we welcome Ashwell Prince to the show.
Good evening, guys, and it's a pleasure to join you guys, and look forward to the show.
What a pleasure! A legend of the game, having played more than 100 games for South Africa in all formats. Certainly one of my favorite cricket players, but certainly my favorite left-handed batsman of all time, Mr. Ashwell Prince, joining us. Ashwell, for the viewers out there, just share with us, where did things start for you? Where do you come from? And take us back to the early days in the life of Ashwell Prince.
Can you hear us?
The signal is pretty poor here where I am, with the stream and everything. But I think I got the gist of the question there. The first question. And yeah, look, I think I grew up obviously in Port Elizabeth, as most people are aware of. And just every other kid in the neighborhood, we kind of learned the game in the street and the backyard. That particular picture that you putting out there now is in the backyard. Playing with the brothers and my dad in the backyard. Then is more football related. The two passions of my life, obviously being football and cricket. And this is my growing up days in PE that you guys went and obviously did your homework and dug some things up that you could pull up. So yeah, I mean that is none of that afro left anymore these days, eh? Long.
Ashwell, tell us, the moment that you started taking cricket seriously, when did that hit when you decided to, I can actually make a career out of this?
Sorry, can you just repeat for me, please, Alberica? I'm really struggling with the signal, guys.
No worries. What I asked was, when did it dawn on you that you want to play cricket as a career? When did it hit you that you want to make a career, a life out of cricket?
So, I think, from a sporting perspective, I think, obviously growing up in apartheid, I don't think that sport as a career was ever an option. And I think for me, kind of the first time that I really considered it, or, felt like this could be a possibility, the very first one-day international where South Africa was allowed back into international sport. South Africa was the first team to sort of come back into international sport after isolation. And that first South Africa, India in the early 90s, I think I was about 13 or 14 at the time. And that's when I really had been passionate about football and cricket. I mean, those pictures that you just brought up there, they are well before my 13th, 14th birthday. So, the sport, like I say, I mean, we played it every day, whether it be in the street or at school or in the park or wherever the case may be, wherever we got a piece of land and a ball and a thematicus to play some cricket and on a piece of field. So I think, but like I say, the first time where it really crossed my mind was that first one-day international back against India, where I started thinking, wow, this is kind of exciting. And, that sort of sparked things off, I would say. A spark, that's where something that was not a possibility before then obviously became a possibility.
Yeah, and we can all thank that spark, because obviously you graced the fields of Port Elizabeth, having played for the Cape Cobras, and it all started just with you playing in the streets. Having played for so long, Ashwell, any mentor or coach which you would want to single out that played the most significant role in your early days as a cricket player? Is there any significant mentor that stands out for you?
Yeah, look, in those days, obviously you guys would be more familiar with the Western Cape and Western Province, having grown up here. I actually grew up in PE, so I would have grown up an EP supporter back in the days. And what was quite popular back in the day is that in South African cricket was a lot of West Indies overseas players. In Cape Town, you guys had Desmond Haynes. In Free State, they had Frank Stevenson. And obviously in Port Elizabeth, we had a guy called Aldine Baptiste who played for EP. And at the same time, when he wasn't playing for EP, he was playing for my club, Garvendale Cricket Club. So, you know, he was obviously the overseas player for the province, but also coaching at our club, and then playing at the club when there was no provincial matches. But, you know, so in my early career, he was quite influential. There was also Adrian Burrell, who was South African assistant coach for some time with Russell Domingo. He was a South African assistant coach. And they played a role in my early career in PE. And then obviously there was people at my club as well that was quite influential. But then when I moved to Cape Town, I was about 20, 21, I think, coming up to 21, went to Cape Town back in the day, made the move from EP to Western Province. And it was really in Cape where my career sort of took off. I would say it was more in Cape Town where I learned my craft and became an international player. And, you know, in Cape Town, I was really close to Vincent Barnes, who was on the coaching staff, obviously, at Western Province at the time. Duncan Fletcher was the head coach who brought me to Cape Town, but he only stayed for about another 6 months to a year after I arrived. That was Duncan. Vincent was the coach at the time, and then Vincent took over as the head coach at the time, and we grew really close, and we have a very good relationship still today. And so, you know, he took over that role of kind of mentor. Some people say he was a bowler. How did he help you with your batting? Every day in practice, you know, at the time when Vinny became a coach, he was only sort of 1 or 2 years retired. So he was still kind of mid-30s, mid to late 30s. And obviously, having been a fast bowler in his day, he still thought he had some pace. And every day he thought he'd get me out at the nets in practice, you know. So he'd bowl a little bit in practice, and we had that kind of banter, sometimes, you know, very competitive. But yeah, from a bowling perspective, you know, he really helped me a lot, because he would say, this is how I try to get you out. People will say, yeah, how can a bowler help you? He would kind of identify areas in my game where he felt he could get me out. And that would be a clear sort of indication to me that, okay, I need to touch up on that. I need to touch up on this, because obviously he felt that those were weaknesses that he could expose. So, you know, when people say bowlers can't help batsmen, I'm not a believer in that kind of theory. It certainly aided me a lot in my career.
That's
but that is, you know, that is only kind of on the field type of stuff. And obviously the relationship developed off the field as well. So yeah, there's a good friendship there.
Awesome. Ashwell, just to let you know, I'm not too sure if you can see us, but your screen did freeze, but we can hear you, and we can hear you fine. So thanks for that.
I can see you guys. I'm okay for now.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. You played more than 100 games for South Africa across formats. What is your most memorable moment on the field?
So, look, there's been a few highlights, obviously, in my career. It's difficult to kind of pick one out. I'd say we played a series against India in South Africa, and they won the first test in Joburg, and then we won the second test in Durban, and then we won the third test in Cape Town. And you know, without picking out any particular performance in that test series, I think if you down the two teams' batting lineups before the start of the series, I mean, for India, they had Virender Sehwag, and he opened the batting with, I think, Wasim Jaffer was the opener. Then they had Rahul Dravid, Sachin Tendulkar, VVS Laxman, Saurav Ganguly. And I think Dhoni was already playing then. I think Dhoni came in at number 7 as wicketkeeper. In our lineup, we had, I think, Gibbs, Smith, Cullis, Amla, myself, AB de Villiers, Mark Boucher. And if you're a betting man and you bet that a Bra from Galvindale is going to score the most runs in that series, you'll be a rich man today.
Yeah.
If you
Awesome.
if you put those two batting lineups next to each other and you say South Africa win the series and that Bra from Galvin scored the most runs in the series, yeah, you probably would have got some good odds for that. So I think, apart from picking out one particular game, that series was a big one for me because, like I say, those two teams were loaded with superstar batsmen. And like I say, Bra from the Hood there, he chipped in a little bit here, chipped in a little bit there.
No, for sure. Recall that series, but as well, you've over your career, I recall starting at the Cobras, you were this very fast fielder, brilliant at backward point. You then get into the one-day squad, very fast between wickets, but you actually found your niche as a test player. You became perhaps one of the best left-hand batsmen in South Africa in an era. I mean, but most significantly, you opened the batting for some time. Because of various reasons. I recall Graham Smith being injured. You having to open the batting, and then they moved you back down to the middle order. The best players that you played with, but also the best player that you played against. Wie is hy speler wat Ashwell Prince 'n nommer gehad het? Die een wat jy gesê het, guys, ek moet hier so uitkyk. Die ou gaan my uitkry of hy gaan my kop afbou. Wie is daai player wat jou effens skrikkerig gemaak het in die oppositie?
Yeah, that was always the spinners. I mean, Shane Warne, I think, got me out more than any other bowler. And then Harbhajan Singh was quite a challenge as well. Especially in India. In India, coming up against people like Kumble, Harbhajan Singh, you're coming up against some of the best spinners in the world. Shane Warne got me out more times than anybody else. In my first, I think in 3 of my first 7 or 8 test series was against Australia. So we played them here, and then that was my debut series. And then 2 years later, we played them in Australia, or 2 or 3 years later, we played them in Australia, and then back here again. So like I say, 3 of my first 6 or 7 series was against Australia, Shane Warne. So you can just imagine, came up against him quite a few times in the very early stages of my career when I must say, growing up in the hood, I mean, we're all products of our environment. Growing up in the hood, we played very little cricket training-wise. When I say training, obviously we played club cricket on turf, but training-wise, you hardly ever train on turf. So my game was built on, you guys will know, I mean, concrete nets in the hood, and everybody wants to bowl fast and bowl bumpers. That's how we learned the game. Everyone to bowl fast and bowl bumpers. So fast bowling was never a thing that scared me. Even at international level against the fastest bowlers in the world, did I ever get hit? Of course I got on the head or whatever the case may be. But fast bowling never sort of scared me because I had learned my game was sort of built on that, But spin bowling, you can imagine, I mean, growing up on concrete surfaces, the ball don't spin a lot and you can just hit through the ball, whatever the case may be. So, then coming up against some of the best spin bowlers in the world, it took me some time to adjust my game to adapt to these kind of really skillful craftsmen of spin bowling. And yeah, look, at the end of the day, I had some success against those guys. Like I said, in South Africa, I scored more runs than anybody else in the series against Kumble. I also scored a test match 100 against Shane Warne in Sydney and 90-odd again here in South Africa. But, certainly, they were the toughest guys. So I'd say probably Shane Warne. I forgot to mention Murli. He was a handful. Shane Warne, Murli, Harbhajan Singh, all spinners. So you can just well imagine, spin was a bit of an issue. But, like I say, I had my successes here and there. And, when I look back at some of the names that I mentioned there now, when I look back at my career, maybe if I played in a different time when I didn't play against those guys, my career average could be 3 or 4 or 5 runs more. But I look back and I think, you know what? I played against, as things stand right now, I played against some of the best bowlers that the world has ever seen in the game, you know, in any era. Because Shane Warne, Muralitharan, they still hold the records for the most wickets in Test cricket. Glenn McGrath, I think he's just been surpassed by James Anderson as the leading wicket taker as a seam bowler. I played against both of those guys. So I really look back fondly in saying that, you know, yeah, I could have scored more runs against lesser opposition, but to be able to have played against some of the best that the world has ever seen, that is something that I'm quite chuffed about that era of cricket. You know, the game has moved on. I think these days, I mean, obviously, we're talking Test cricket predominantly. Now, you know, the game has moved on where T20 is the big thing and people are chasing down 15 runs, 16 runs and over in the last 7, 8 overs. So, you know, cricket is evolving. And like I say, when I look back at that time, I'm quite comfortable with the fact that I could play Test cricket against some of the best the world had ever seen.
Yeah, for sure.
That's fantastic. You know, you mentioned some big, and I need nice groot name what they know said. Because I mean, if you ask me out here, there's a Brian Standard 6 that got me out every over. But I'm gonna flash a few comments from our viewers. You know, you mentioned EP, and there's a few comments that came through. You know, guys that obviously supported EP back then. There's a question from God Vidboy saying that the famous EP Benki, did it have any influence on your cricket career? That's a question from him.
Yeah, look, I think
he's probably referring to the band that playing that nice lekker vibes, yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, you know, I went there as a young boy. I used to go and watch EP, obviously, as a youngster when things changed and we were allowed to go to St. George's Park. So I grew up kind of in that band, never playing. I don't have any musical skills, unfortunately. But obviously, I went there watching cricket, sitting in the band. So I kind of grew up with that kind of atmosphere. And one of the biggest moments about the band and a really enjoyable kind of moment, something that I always remind my dear friend about, is Paul Adams making his debut as an 18-year-old for South Africa. 18 years old, making his debut for South Africa. I was sitting right in the middle of that band when he came on to bowl for the first time in Test cricket, you know, as an 18-year-old. And that was quite inspirational for me, looking at Paul and obviously him kind of representing the community where I come from and where he come from, very, very similar communities. And, you know, you talk about inspirational. That was a big inspirational moment for me because I had known Paul from primary school. We played in apartheid days under Sakos. We played in a schools, what was referred to then as SAPSA Schools Week, that we played against each other. And that was under 13. So we must have been 12, 13 around there. And then 5 years later, there he was playing for the country at St. George's, making his Test debut. So that was quite inspirational, you know. And like I say, the band was always the place to watch the game from because that was the best atmosphere.
And it made that atmosphere, man. I'm just thinking now, Ashwell mentioned that, you know, pace didn't faze him at all. And like you say, we played some cricket. You know, I wasn't scared of pace until one time there was a guy called Pepler Sandri. He bowled at me. He played for Marties. I was opening the batting, and then these guys, this guy, the slip and the wicket keepers, they go and stand right at the back when I'm thinking this guy can't bowl. They're not going to catch the ball there. Now, Barrick, I'll tell you, ek was nog nooit so bang. Hy ou het een keer uit 'n ball gedeliver. It was coming to me. Ek het gesien hoe betaal my polis uit. But that guy, I think he went on to play some games for the Cobras, but he actually got hammered by the pros. I mean, they were standing there and hitting him all over the place. And I would still tell the guys, this guy bowled to me. And I was so scared at facing this guy. I think I got 5 or 6 runs, but I was so relieved getting out because of the pace that guy was bowling. But I'm just, in awe saying this small of a stature guy, not afraid of pace bowling, but it's the spinners that really got him worried. As we're moving on, a few... we've got Safiq also coming in there. Ashwell scoring 150 as a test opener against the Aussies. At Newlands, do you recall that, Ashwell?
Yeah, obviously. I mean, that was the one that you guys referred to before. Graham Smith got injured, and I was asked to open the batting. And if you remember, the series before, that was also a back-to-back series, by the way, where we went to Australia first. I got injured. I broke my thumb. And JP come into the team, and JP obviously had a really successful debut series. He scored 50 on his debut, then he scored 169, I think it was, in Melbourne at the MCG. So he kept his place. Then when we came back, my thumb had healed. I couldn't get my place back in the team. They played the first 2 test matches, and then I came back for the last test match in Cape Town. I think we lost the first 2 test matches. I came back for the last test match in Cape Town, and the only place for me was because JP obviously had started like a house on fire in this match cricket. So he stayed in the middle order. And the only place back for me was as an opener. So I had to open the batting. Yeah.
Awesome. Let's
just move.
Sorry, I'll tell you one thing about that game. Now, Shane Warne had just retired, right? And Shane Warne, like I said, he got me out more than
so you were pretty relieved. You were pretty relieved.
But the Aussies loved having a leg spinner in their team. This guy was about 36 years old, and he made his test debut in that match, right? So I obviously opened the batting, faced the fast bowlers a little bit, and on came the spin bowler. Bryce McGain was his name, and it was his one and only test match, and he bowled 3 balls to me.
God.
He bowled 3 balls to me, and after 3 balls, I said to myself, "This is no Shane Warne, and he's gonna go the distance today." So I got my own back against some. I got my own back against some Australian leg spinners.
Brilliant.
And he got smashed. I think later on in the same innings, I think Gullah scored 100, AB also scored 100, and everyone absolutely smashed him. I think we all must have had the same thought process that this is not Shane Warne, and we're gonna deal with this guy.
Fantastic.
Wonderful.
But now that you're mentioning the Aussies, and I mean, we know they're well known for chirping and their banter, on field. What was your most, memorable moment or memorable chirp that you might have heard, either by your own team members or by opponents?
So I was just reminded about this the other day, actually. So people always look at the Aussies and say, they're very abrasive and probably aggressive and all that. And sometimes it's quite funny. I mean, the thing that always kind of stands out for me from verbals is Andrew Simons. I remember playing in a test match at the MCG against him. And I was a footballer, man. So I got a paar bakbene mos, man. You know what I'm saying? So I was batting, and he was standing in the slips, and he said to me, "Mate," so typical Australian accent. He is like, "Mate, you couldn't catch a pig in a hallway with legs like that." So, he's kind of saying that. I wouldn't be able to catch a pig in a corridor with legs like that. So that was quite funny. That's one that always kind of stands out.
I hope that answers Furlow's question. The best family-friendly chirp you received. I hope that one answers you. Well, thanks for that. Thanks for that, Furlow.
Moving on quickly from Ashwell Prince, the player, to Ashwell Prince, the coach. How difficult is it? Not only for an Ashwell Prince, but in your opinion as a professional coach now, to migrate from being a player to a coach in such a short time? I think you were retired for very short. You moved from being a player to a coach. How difficult is it? Or how easy is it for Ashwell Prince?
Yeah, look, I mean, it is an adjustment. I retired, and then in 2015 I retired. Then I came back home. I was still playing county cricket in England, so obviously came back home. I was asked to be on the national selection panel, so I did that for about a year and a half. But during that time, when I was a selector, I was also asked to do some coaching by Cricket South Africa as a consultant. So I went with the South African A team to Australia. And that's where I felt, at the time I was doing some commentary for SuperSport. I was doing some selection stuff for CSA. But when I was asked to do some coaching stuff for the South African A team when we went to Australia, that's when I really felt that, what am I going to do here? I'm going to carry on with commentary, be a selector forever, whatever the case may be. But it's really when I went on that Australian trip where I felt that this is where I can make the biggest impact, working with younger players, kind of trying to transfer the knowledge. But you're asking me about the differences between playing and coaching. It's completely different. When you're playing, whether it's at provincial level, club level, international level, it's you and your own thoughts and your own preparation, and you got to get yourself ready to go up against some of the best players in the world, and you're doing your own homework, whatever the case may be. When you have a squad of 18 or 20 players, it's very different, and you got to kind of consider each and every one of them, where they are in their games, what the confidence levels are. You have to have continuous conversations about some other factors that might be influencing players. So it's really a different set of skills that you have to acquire when you become a coach, because it's not about whether you were able to. What I'm trying to say is, as a coach, you're not being examined on whether you can kind of hit a cover drive or a pull shot, or whether you can teach another player to hit a cover drive or a pull shot. You must remember, these guys are all professionals some of them play for the country already. So play all those shots. You're not going to teach them how to play that shot. The man upstairs have already given them that talent to be able to do those things. It's not you that's now teaching them to do this thing. Look, I used to hit it like this. So come and see, I'll teach you how to do that. They can do it. That's not the thing, It's managing the environment. It's sort of managing the players, building relationships, communication. Communication is very important. And, do we fall short? Yes, of course we fall short. Sometimes you think, sometimes I go to the game, to the ground in the morning, and maybe it's day 2 or day 3 in a 4-day game or something, and you kind of analyzing and you're practicing, rehearsing what you're going to say, because you have to choose your words. You don't want to be putting too much pressure on the group, or you don't want to be too aggressive with them, or you don't want to, if you had a bad day the day before, you don't want that to linger on to the next day. You got to kind of deal with that, start the new day off positive again. So it's completely different skill set to what you needed as a player. It's completely different. And obviously the knowledge of the game is there, and kind of, that's another thing altogether. But it's really interesting. What I enjoy most about coaching is the sort of being able to see the growth in players, in individuals. So, we at Western Province or Cobras over the last few years, the squad has been through a transition where some big names had kind of retired, and we had to bring in a whole lot of young players into the squad over the last 3 or 4 years, and seeing them come in at sort of 19, 20 years of age to where they are now, where they're kind of knocking on the door for Proteas selection. People like Karl Verreynne, Zubair Hamza, Janeman Malan, Pieter Malan, they all played, George Linder. They all played for the Proteas over the last couple of years, and they're starting to knock on the door to become regular players for the Proteas. So that's really, seeing that development from some of them being young, very sure, not just cricketers, but also people, to sort of being grown-ups now, growing up very quickly in the last 3 or 4 years. And that's quite fulfilling to see.
That's great news.
Ashwell, the fact you've traveled around the world, and that does take a toll on your family life. The fact that you might be away from home for weeks on time, maybe even months. How did you manage that part of? Did you have to have a balance between your sporting and your family life? How did you manage to do that over your career and also now? I mean, seeing that you are traveling as well with the Cobras.
Yeah, so this is one of the things that as you probably don't realize how much players are sacrificing, especially the ones, like you say, who do have families. It's hard on a family. If you are an international player that plays test matches, ODIs, and T20s, if you sleep 2 months of the year in your own bed, your bed at home, that would be a lot. 2 months in a year, 2 months out of 12, that would be a lot. So you can think about it. I mean, 10 months of the year you're away. You kind of, people might be mistaken thinking when you play a series in South Africa that it's a home series. Yes, home series, but if you go in from Joburg to Bloemfontein to Durban to PE to Potch or wherever the case may be, they are not at home. The only time you're at home is when you actually play in your city. So take, for instance, a person whose home is in Potch. If a series is not played in Potch, if no match is played in Potch in that series, that means you don't sleep at home. You're on the road all the time, even though it's a home series. You don't sleep. So it's tough on the family. I remember, my international career in 2011, and it was just at the time, obviously we have 3 sons now, but it was at the time when we had, the second one was born. And so you can just imagine, you play a test match, you're coming back into the room, it's you, your wife, the first one he was 2 at the time, and then the baby is born, and he's like 4 or 5 months, and in one room, in a hotel, you got your prams in there, you got your toys in there, there's alles in there. You come in at night, and your wife is trying to make you sleep. You come in, you stumble over something, you stand on one of that squeaky toys, and all the children wake up, and then go back. You know what I'm saying? So. Yes. Just to give you a little bit of a picture of what it can be like. I don't think people always see that, but these are all the things that players have to go through, And I can tell you a funny story. We played a series in England in 2000. So we were in where was it? I think it was Lords or Headingley or somewhere there. So it was at Lords, I think. So the night before, I scored 100 at Lords. But the night before, I was up all night. I was making the baby sleep, because during daytime, your wife is with the child the whole day, right? So now you come home, it's your turn, right? So wow. I was doing some feeding in the middle of the night, and it must have been after midnight, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, doing. And then the next day, he scored 100 at Lords. So the Mercer said, hey, this thing works for you, but I feed the child middle of the night. It works for you. So that was you be up in the middle of the night to score test hundreds. That used to be a thing in the house. I'm nah, that thing is not always going to work.
We've got a nice message as well there, just revealing that. Yeah, just revealing that it helped and it assisted your game very, very well. We've also got Vincent Barnes coming through there. He still believes that the series against England in 2008 was your best. Your 100 at Lords and obviously your Headingley set up the series win against England. That obviously still fresh in the memory of many of us. Domestically, was Vern a threat to you? Het hy ou jou uitgesort?
Die ou het my nog al 'n paar keer uitgekry, ja. But the Vern is a quality bowler. Listen, average of 21 in Test match cricket, fastest to 50 wickets. I don't know, fastest wickets. He had a phenomenal career. Obviously, I mean, he was only selected as a Test match player when he was about 26, 27. It could have happened earlier for him. It didn't happen earlier. First class bowling average of about 19 or 20 when he got selected. 19 when he was selected for the Proteas. So, absolute master. And an absolute master of his skill. And he's a legend in South African cricket. I've got a very good relationship with him. And I think he'll play a big role still in country. He's making it's not really a comeback. I mean, he was still supposed to be playing in England. Obviously, he signed a contract after he retired with Test cricket, and that unfortunately was curtailed through COVID last year. We'll be seeing the Vern back in a different capacity next season for Western Province. Obviously, still playing, but I think he's got to play maybe for 1 or 2 more seasons on the field, guiding some of the youngsters. But then, obviously, as a mentor going forward in the game in South African cricket, I think he's got a good role. He's got a massive role to play.
No, for sure. As well, the AB de Villiers debate has been put to bed this week. He reveals that he is retired, confirmed retired. He remains retired until further notice. As a coach, Ashwell Prince, now you are a coach. AB de Villiers gives an indication he's available to play for your side leading up to a T20 World Cup. What are the considerables for you as a coach to consider selection of a player of this caliber, given the fact that he's retired? Speak us through your thought process if you are in that position to make this very, very important call.
Yeah, look, I think, first of all, a lot of South African cricket fans would have to see AB back. And I've got to say that, people say X, Y, Z. At the end of the day, if he decides that he wants to come out of retirement, nobody can deny him that. If he wanted to come out of retirement, obviously now he's decided he wants to remain retired. If he wanted to come out of retirement, I don't think anybody can deny him that. If he wanted to make himself available, that then obviously becomes a big sort of discussion point with the selectors and with Mark Boucher, the leader of the team, and obviously the rest of the staff, and how they integrate him back into the squad. And that, I think, would have been the biggest issue. I think now that he said that he doesn't want to play, that sort of makes things a little bit easier for Boucher. But I think if AB wanted to play, I think Boucher probably would have wanted him there, because ultimately, as a coach, you want all your best available to give yourself the best chance of winning this sort of World Cup that's eluding us. Having said that, team dynamic is a massive thing in a team sports environment. Team dynamic is a massive thing, and AB I think what I'm hearing is that he's saying that he possibly would have taken the place of 1 or 2 players, or one player, obviously, that could have been part of the squad. Could have been you must remember, if AB comes in, that means if they're taking 16 players to the World Cup, player number 16 falls out. So AB is in. Then the starting 11, if AB is going to bat number 4, whoever was going to bat number 4 then moves to the bench. So he moves to number 12 or 13. And then that becomes a management thing. How well can you manage that situation as the coach? Because it will have an impact on the guy who was in the starting lineup, who now loses his place in the starting lineup. Somebody would have gone to the World Cup. He's now going to stay behind in South Africa. He's not going to go to the World Cup. All those things play a role. That's why I said before about coaching, it's not about how good Mark Boucher was as a player. It's about how best he's going to handle that situation with the team dynamic. So it's completely different to playing the game when you sit in the dressing room having to manage 16, 17, 18 people. When you're managing the national team like him, there's an extended squad because there's obviously the South African A-team players that's also looking to be in the team. So it would have impacted the squad. There's a lot of things to consider. Is he a match winner? That's a given, of course. I mean, that's the easy answers. How you manage all the rest, that's the difficult answer.
Yeah, great answer to that. Thanks, Ashwell.
And seeing that you're touching on the World Cup, how do you rate the Proteas' chances this year?
Look, I think with it, it's 2020, so anybody can win. In a 2020, anybody can win the match. You in a test match, you really need 7 or 8 people to play well over the course of a test match. Over 5, you can probably get away with 3 guys being off in a test, probably maximum 4, but you need 7 or 8 guys to have a good game in a test match because it's kind of relentless. You have to be on it. You have a good session, you got to come back the next day, have another good session. You got to come back the next morning, have another good session. Otherwise, you let the opposition back in the team. In T20, you can have somebody who, let's say an all-rounder, for instance, right? We bowl first. He has an absolute stinker with the ball, but then he has the ability to hit sixes. And then he can hit 4 sixes in the last 2 overs to win the game, And so that's the nature of T20 cricket. It's so dynamic, and the game can change in a heartbeat, where test match cricket is very different. It's over a long period of time, blah, blah, blah. In test match cricket, the game can change in a heartbeat. So anybody can win. I still firmly believe that we have some seriously talented cricketers in this country. And again, I mean, it's about getting your combinations right. You're kind of hoping also that you get onto pitches that, let's not beat around the bush. For South Africa to have a good chance in a World Cup in India, the less the pitches spin, the better our chances are from a batting point of view. That's the reality. If you ask me who's the best cricketing team in the world at the moment, I'm going to tell you straight up, it's India. The reason why, I'll give you the reason why. When we were playing Test cricket, India was still struggling to win away from home. They were very good at home, right? And they would dominate anybody in their own conditions with their spin bowlers, right? But when they went away from home, especially to Australia, England, South Africa, they would struggle there because their batting struggled there. Now, their batsmen are much better in our conditions. We are still not as good as we haven't improved our game in their conditions as they have done their game in our conditions. So they've improved a lot more playing on bouncier pitches, faster pitches, etc. And also, where they've made major strides is that in years gone by, or it's like a generation gone by, they would predominantly depend on Kumble, Harbhajan Singh, whatever, to beat people. They now have the spinners and the fast bowlers. They have some of the best fast bowlers in the world. So their game, the development, they've become better at fast bowling. They will always have good spinners. Their batsmen have become better in foreign conditions. I don't believe that our batsmen have improved in foreign conditions, and especially on the subcontinent. And there are reasons for that. And largely it's resources. India is the richest nation in world cricket. And so they can get their players exposed on age group tours or A-side tours more often than other nations can. They can send them all the time, send them to go tour England, tour Australia, tour South Africa, go and get used to the conditions. And we have that as well in South African cricket. Vinny and his department, they do those things, and they send, our batsmen over to India, spin camps and things like that. But, it's not enough. We don't get enough of that kind of exposure. So I don't believe that we've bridged that gap in terms of getting better in playing subcontinent conditions. And I like to think that that's something that CSA has at the top of their list, kind of thing.
Wise words from Mr. Prince. He's giving us an outside chance. There's a chance, but obviously, rightfully so, saying that India is certainly, Alberic, the team to beat. Before we wrap up the show and see we just surpassed the 45-minute mark, it's not going to be appropriate, Alberic. He spoke about say bakbene wanneer hy sokker gespeel.
There's something, and I know Vincent is watching because he posted something there before. But you know what? All football teams, especially English Premier League fans, everybody hates Liverpool. But you know why? This week I've come to the realization of why that is. And the reason is that if there's one team that's going to pull off a move like that, it's Liverpool, man. It's always Liverpool. You know what I'm saying? There's always so Liverpool that pulls off a move like you think about it, guys. 3-0 down in the Champions League final. Who wins the game? Liverpool. 3-0 down in the Champions League. 3-0 down in the Champions League semi-final against Barcelona with Lionel Messi and Luis Suarez and all those guys. Who overturns that result? Liverpool overturns that result. And then the goalkeeper comes up in the last minute to score a winning header. It's always Liverpool. Everyone is quiet because their teams.
Actually, I got one question though. I mean, where's Brom? Right? Were they lying on the log?
No, they relegated.
That was now specifically. I had to do that. I see Avery Boer has just left. Gasanta Bader, Heinrich Wenzel, everybody coming onto the show. They second. They the United guys. And they were very vocal. I just had to throw that in tongue in the cheek. Ashwell Prince supporting a championship team. We had to obviously surrender that title this year, but we'll be back and just tongue in the cheek to everyone. And thanks for that comment, Ashwell. But just if you support, I believe if you support proper sports side, obviously your personal life, your social life will flourish as well. Now, that's why I'm supporting the Sharks.
Yeah, good luck with that. I think you probably have more luck with Liverpool than the Sharks this weekend, Aini. But look, Ashwell, yeah, I mean, thanks for. I mean, you've been phenomenal throughout your career, you've been a stalwart not only for the Proteas but for many up and coming kids out there. That followed cricket, followed your career over the years. You being a coach, you deal with youngsters all the time. What is your message to the up and coming stars, the kids sitting at home? Wanting to be the next Ashwell Prince. What is your message to them through whatever they might be facing to get to where they can reach in their cricketing career?
Yeah, look, I think, for me, the message is simple, allow yourself to dream and believe in your dreams. As far-fetched as they may seem, allow yourself to dream and believe in your dreams because let's face it, I mean, we grow up in a kind of a tough society. A lot of kids in our communities, they grow up in a tough society and, those kids, they probably don't allow themselves to dream because they just feel, how is it going to be possible? How am I going to be able to achieve those things? And I think, believe in your dreams and give it a real crack. Give it your best, and don't give up on your dreams. Don't ever give up on your dreams. There are people like us. I'm saying like us. I'm now in a position as a coach where we're looking to create opportunity for those people who believe in themselves. I think that's a big part of my passion these days is to create opportunity, create platform. I moved on from being a player where I have to look after myself and trying to concentrate on my own performance or whatever the case may be. We've moved now into a different kind of era and a different role where our jobs are to identify people and to create opportunity, and not just, and, when I say that, I mean that, for everybody in the country, every South African, it's not just about our community, where we came from, whatever the case may be. Every child should be allowed to dream, regardless of what race you are. You should be allowed to dream and follow those dreams, and ultimately, when we are people in position of power and we can create opportunity, that's what we must try and do. Not only for certain kinds. I'm going to reiterate that. Not for certain kinds, because let's face it, guys, country comes from a dark past where people only try to create opportunity for a certain kind, only for certain kind of people. And if we're going to repeat that, we're going to repeat the troubles of those days that we had then. So we can't just want to create opportunity for one kind of people. We got to create opportunity for everybody, So to create or to build a better South Africa, we have to start integrating communities. We have to start integrating society. So anyway, that's another talk. You can go another hour if we want to go on to that one, but we'll have to do that another time.
There we go, Shafiq. Also, just obviously echoing that. But as well, our slogan at the show is to encourage a culture of recognition. Is to say thank you for those change makers in society. And I think the reason that you obviously qualify through and through is because of being that role model in the early days, coming from PE, gracing us with that wonderful cover drives as a Cobras player, as a Warriors player, going on to play more than 100 times for the national side. But now, obviously, as a mentor, as a coach, you've taken up that responsibility to say, I will develop the next Zubaya Hamza, the next Yaneman Malan, the George Linders of this world. It's all coming through your hands. We want to wish you well. We want to thank you for the role that you will continue to play. We know that we will see you as the national coach sometime or another. That is obviously, as het van my afhang het ek jou môre aangestel. But the role that you play significantly and giving hope to the people out there. Obviously, it's only a positive for the society, for the people in your immediate surroundings, but also for young people like me. You are a shining light, and we want to say, keep well, keep doing good, keep being vocal about the things that matter. And from our side at the Têkkel Talk Show, we want to thank you for gracing us with your presence. May things just go well on your side. And thanks so much once again.
Thank you very much, guys. It's been a real pleasure to come on the show. On that coaching gig, I don't know if I can go another spell in my life with only sleeping 1 month, 2 months a year in my own bed. So for now I'm happy. For now I'm happy with where I am. Thank you very much.
Guys, there we have it. Ashwell Prince, what a legendary left-handed batsman. Finished his career with an average of more than 40. And what a legend. Check out this show at Têkkel Talk Show on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. Julle het hier gesien, Ashwell Prince, live on Têkkel Talk Show on a Thursday. Alberic, Ashwell, it was a pleasure. Thanks so much and go well.
Thank you, gents.